Hey guys and girls, I'm James and welcome to the channel. Today is the complete beginner guide to the DJI Mini3. Not just that the video is complete, that you're the complete beginner. So you've decided to get the DJI Mini3 as your first drone, or maybe you're thinking about getting this drone. Well, this might be the most perfect drone in the world for a beginner, and it should be your second drone. What should be your first drone? Your first drone should be a little micro mini drone like this Holystone 210 to learn the orientation of a drone, just so you know how to fly it manually. If you see this in all my videos, I show this guy, and this is what happens when most people go buy a drone for the first time. So you don't want to go buy a really nice drone like this until you learn the orientation of the drone. But once you can master this guy, flying it around the house, letting your dogs chase it, then you're ready for this drone. So when I say your first drone, I mean your first drone once you learn how to fly a drone. So the things we're going to go over today, I'm not going to just show you how to fly this drone, I'm going to show you why. When I first started flying drones, I got on YouTube, I tried to watch some videos, and people told me how to do certain things, but I'm the type of person, I need to understand why. Yeah, that's me right here. That's hooking a fishing line to a drone. My first one, I smashed it into my neighbor's Suburban. My second one, I kept having to climb trees to get it out because I wasn't following the steps. I didn't make a pre-start checklist, and I did the things they told me to, but I didn't understand why, so I didn't do them correctly. So I'm just not going to show you how to fly this drone. I'm going to show you why you need to do certain steps as a complete beginner. And second of all, we'll go over the functions of the drone, the flight characteristics, how the obstacle avoidance works, the flight time, things like that. Third, we'll go over the interface in the app and how to operate the drone through the certain controls and some of the features it has. I'm not going to go super depth into different camera settings and things for like that. That's when you're more advanced. I'm just going to get it to where when you take this out for your first few flights, you're going to feel real comfortable because you're going to understand what this drone's doing. And fourth, for some tips that will help you as a new pilot to feel more comfortable and to get your skill set better in flying it, even in your first few flights. So let's start with number one, not just how, but why. So when you first get this drone, of course you have to go through and it's going to ask you for updates. You're thinking, why do I have to do updates when I just bought the drone? Well, this drone was made and shipped probably months before you got it. In between that time, they've made major improvements in it. So you've got to go through all the updates. And there's videos out there, but it's pretty simple. Once you click on it, just like everything else, it'll walk you through on how to update the drone. Just make sure your batteries are full. Don't start trying to update a drone to a 30-minute update and you've got 10 minutes worth of battery left, or you got to start all over again. Second of all, it's going to ask you to do a compass calibration. What that's doing is, guys, this is a GPS drone. It's not a Wi-Fi drone. And what a compass calibration means, it's hooked up to the global satellites all around you. The more, the better. And not just 3 or 4, but probably 15 to 30 different satellites. And the more that the different connections are coming in, the more it can zoom on it in its location. But you know how when you get in your car and you start to drive, and your GPS says, all of a sudden you realize you're going the wrong way? Well, it's because those satellites don't know what's the front and the back of your car. So you can't have that happen on a drone, or it's going to take off and it's going to crash into a street sign or something like that. So it needs to know. So it's real important before this drone takes off that the satellites know what's the front and the back of the drone. That's why when it shows you to do a compass calibration, it wants you to spin it around 3 times horizontally and then 3 times vertically. So then it can pinpoint its location and the direction of the drone, so when it takes off, it knows what it's doing. I wish I'd have understood that in the very beginning. Also, when you're doing a compass calibration, it'll say you'll get this metal interference warning all the time, and you're like, well, I'm just standing in my driveway. When you set it down on concrete, there's rebar in there, so that metal interference stops the satellites of knowing what's the drone and what's the metal. So sometimes you've got to walk over into your yard and get away from metal. Can't do it on the hood of your car, or in a parking lot sometimes because of the metal interference. Also, sometimes if you take off and it starts to what's called toilet bowling. So you take off and the drone just seems to be doing like this. Well, that means that it doesn't have a good compass calibration. So even if it doesn't tell you to do a compass calibration, land the drone, recalibrate it. There's the IMU calibration, but that's through the ECU. That's a video for another day. And not to be scared of it. I mean, guys, these drones, they fly themselves. If you ever panic in a situation, you just stop and hover with this drone because it's just going to stop and the satellites are going to hold it into position. You can even walk up and grab it and pull it to the side, and it's just going to go back right where it was because it wants to maintain its position. So the drone's flying itself, you're just telling it where to go. So don't panic. If you ever panic, just let go. Now let's get into the functions of the drone and the flight characteristics of it. One thing I'm not going to get into in this video to keep it from being an hour long is the intelligent flight modes, the active track, the spotlight, the point of interest, and these things are a blast on this drone. And it's all available because now it has obstacle avoidance. You couldn't have all of these features without obstacle avoidance. So they've really packed a punch in a drone under 250 grams. But while I'm here, let me go ahead and give you one tip. So if you look at Lucas's shirt against the fairways, it has contrast. So if you're wearing a black t-shirt, black shorts, and you're on black pavement, it's not going to work. I see people saying my active track doesn't work. Well, the camera has to have contrast to be able to track you. But if you're a complete beginner, I would wait to use these features. I know it's kind of like getting a present at Christmas. You can't wait to open it and play with it. But become more proficient with your drone and become comfortable with it. The way it flies, every drone kind of has its own little quirkiness of how it flies and reacts to different elements it's thrown at it. So be sure and get used to the drone before you start going into all these features, and then watch my other video I'm going to put out where I go over all the different aspects of how this works. So one of the major features of this drone is it's 249 grams, because in the United States, you have to register your drone if it's over 250 grams. Guys, in the United States, I would want to register it anyway. I don't know why everybody panics about spending $5 every 2 years to register your drone. And what you'll do is right here, like I did on my Maverick 3, you'll make a sticker. It's $5. You go into the website. It's very simple. Then if your drone ever gets lost because of some glitch in the system or something, or you run out of battery and you can't find it, whoever finds it, your information's on the drone. So next month I'm going to England to go see my son. Flying a drone under 250 grams has completely different licensing than over 250 grams. And the same thing in Canada. And throughout the world, there's a lot of benefits to flying a drone that's under 250 grams. A lot of countries think this is a toy. But guys, this is an amazing machine for under 250 grams. And one of the main features that this drone has over the old DJI Mini is the obstacle avoidance. And having obstacle avoidance, they're able to add so many other flight characteristics like follow me and other things, because they can't put follow me on a drone that doesn't have obstacle avoidance. All they're going to do is have to be replacing a bunch of drones that crashed into things that are following people. But with obstacle avoidance, somehow they did it in this drone. And that's why it looks like Kermit in the front of it. It's got the 2 obstacle avoidance sensors in the front, and these are also in the back. That's why this drone is shaped like this, because the obstacle flow sensors are here. That way they don't have to put them all the way in the back. So they're front and back right here, and then they're on the bottom. But these obstacle avoidance sensors, don't confuse that with optical flow sensors. So that's why there's 4 sensors on the bottom. The obstacle avoidance keeps it from hitting things on the bottom, but the optical flow knows when it's landing how close it is to the ground to slow down. Also, these legs are much longer. If you look here, and what that does, it keeps under braking. These props sometimes would get into the shot, but making these longer and more of a dead cat design, which means they're further out, keeps the props from getting into the shot. Also, this camera will turn vertically, so if you're wanting to film for Instagram or TikTok or social media like that, the drone can shoot 16:9. It'll also turn and shoot vertically. That's cool, because before you had to crop into your images and lose a lot of data. But let me say something about obstacle avoidance. Guys, there's a lot of drones out there that had obstacle avoidance that are in trash cans because people trusted it. Little branches and things like that. The only drone that I really trust obstacle avoidance is this one. So even when I'm doing follow me, we tried to make this crash and we couldn't get it to crash. I've never been able to get this drone to crash, not even in a little bitty branches with putting the beacon in my pocket and riding my bicycle through the woods. This drone is the one that really has the best optical avoidance, but it's 3 times the cost of this one. The one thing this doesn't have is it doesn't have side obstacle avoidance. This one has 360-degree obstacle avoidance up, down, all around. This one has it in the front and in the back and below, but not above it. So if you're rising up, you can hit into a tree or a bridge. These sensors are set it to 45 degrees, as you saw in that photo a little while ago, but it doesn't have it to the side. So one of my favorite things about a drone is the orbit mode. So when I'm doing real estate photography and things like that, the realtors love to get that shot of going around the house. Well, this doesn't have side avoidance, so make sure you're higher and you're not going to run into the obstacles of going around trees. And one way to do that, if you want to do a sideways shot, is go ahead and look where you're going to go this direction. So look at the flight going around that you want to do to make sure it's not at the height that you're at. Then come back and reset it sideways and have it do the orbit mode. Don't put your drone into harm's way going sideways and panic at the last moment. When if you fly it in that circle this direction, and then you'll even know if you're going to get close to anything. That's a good tip. So the flight time on this drone's really good, but it was really good with the Mini too. I mean, I'm with this with the 249 gram battery, I'm getting 28 to 32 minutes, just mattering. A lot of it's the heat. Right now it's 106 degrees outside, or if it's really cold, or if it's really windy, that can vary a lot. Also, these drones don't like to hover in place, or they'll overheat if it's hot outside because it does not have an internal fan. They can't put a fan in a drone that's under 250 grams. But like the Maverick 3s and things like that, when they sit, you'll hear a fan turn on. It'll start buzzing. Well, this one doesn't do that. Another tip, if you're going to leave this drone on for a long time sitting, doing updates or getting the internal storage out of it, this has a lot of internal storage. So if you forget your SD card, it'll store all the data inside the drone. So when you get back, you can retrieve that. But if it's sitting in a hot room, it's going to overheat. So just get a simple fan, because if you look right here, that's what these two little vents are right here. When these props are spinning, it's throwing air inside the drone through these vents. So don't put the vent in the front of the drone, even though there's right here. It's better to put I think it's better to put the vent from the side so it blows in through these vents back here. All right, to start with, I mean, look at the design difference. Completely different design of the gimbal of the drone. Actually, it looks quite a bit larger, but it's actually still stays under the 250 gram mark. If this is your first drone, let me explain some of the features of it. I mean, first of all, this one doesn't have the door. The battery just slides in and out. This is where your SD card goes. It also has internal storage, and this is where you charge it into your updates. If you ever do need to change these props have different angle of attack. If you put the wrong ones on, it will tell you before it'll take off that you got the wrong ones on. I mean, these blades are way larger than the Mini 2. Also, it's more of a dead cat design, which means these props can actually get into the camera, but since these are longer and further out, then they don't get into the camera. I remember the first DJI drone I bought, I thought it was broke because I didn't know you had to press once and then hold down to get it to come on. And so these lights right here showed you how much the battery's charged up. Of course, it looks like Kermit. And what's nice about this one, it doesn't matter which way you fold the arms. You can fold them in either direction without having to start with the other one. It's got obstacle avoidance sensors on the front, and these are actually pointing back. So these are your backwards optical flow sensors. It saved a lot of weight instead of putting them back here. These are the optical flow sensors, so it knows when it's getting close to the ground, and these are your obstacle avoidance sensors on the bottom. So there is lights here in the front. They're really nice. Of course, if you fly 30 minutes before dusk or before the sun comes up, you need to put a FAA approved light, and you need to see it for 3 miles. Also, if you do register it with the FAA, you have to make a sticker, kind of like I did here on my Maverick 3, and put the registration number on it. So let me show you the weight difference of how nice this controller is. So the original RC-M1 weighs in at 390 grams. And this one you think would weigh a lot more, but it actually comes in a little bit less. If you compare it to the smart controller that comes with the Maverick 3, it weighs almost twice as much. If you're on the run, I mean, this thing's so nice not having to take your phone out. So on this one, if you do get it, this pops up here, and then it has inside here, it comes with different attachments that it plugs into your phone. The controls are pretty much the same. One thing that's different about the two, this one has one wheel on the top, and that is to move the gimbal up and down, but this one actually has two. So one moves the gimbal up and down, and one is the zoom. This is to start your recording, this one's to take a photo, this one's to turn it on and off. So on both controllers, the switch is cinematic mode, normal mode, and sport mode, and you don't have obstacle avoidance in sport mode. And over here, you have a function button, because this one doesn't have the function buttons on the back like this one does. So this one has two function buttons on the back, and this one will move the gimbal up and down, and this one will turn the camera vertical to horizontal. For Instagram and things like that, but you can also do that in the app, and you can program these to do anything that you want. So your knobs are back here. This first time it didn't come with extra ones. They usually come with extra ones. My son has stuck twice has stuck his smart controller in a bag and broken the gimbal on this. So be careful and take these off whenever you put them on. And to turn it on, it's the same thing, you press and hold. And these lights will show you how far charged up it is. And on the bottom is where you charge it. Right here you can also, these are if you want to put a neck strap on it, you can get attachments that fit into there. You can find those on Amazon pretty inexpensively. And if you open up the flap on the bottom, that's where you put your SD card so you can get the screen recordings out, and another C connector, but that's for doing updates, not for charging. These are just vents. There is no antenna. On this one, this is the antenna. But this one does not have antennas. People complain about the range, but one thing that has to do is on the old Mini, the antennas were here on these legs that stick down. You can look in there and you can see the wire that goes into it, but since there's no legs that stick down on this one, the antenna is built inside. So sometimes some people complain about the range. I mean, you can't fly beyond visual line of sight anyway. So I never experienced any troubles with it whatsoever. So it's a 700 nit. So to get to the first menu, you pull down once and pull down twice. And then you can do screen recording, Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, airplane mode. You can mute it. You can adjust your screen brightness right here. And then the volume of how it talks to you. And then you can go and reformat yours. And then you can change your SD cards and stuff here. And so to get out of this, so when you first turn the drone on, and you turn this on, it'll automatically tune it. I like the grid lines. You can turn those on and off in your settings. Of course, it says unable to take off because we're inside and we don't have any satellites. Here we'll show the mode that you're in. So here's your battery, of course, and this will show the distance that it is. And this is your signal strength. This shows you how many satellites you have. And here is your settings. So some of these are really important. So obstacle avoidance, bypass, brake, and off. Of course, you want to leave it on at all times. I couldn't imagine why you'd ever want to turn it off. But bypass is really important. What bypass does is when it comes up to something, it'll fly around it. If you're doing return, if the battery starts to go dead and it starts to return home to you and it's on brake and it comes up to a tree, it's just going to stop, goes to the battery, runs down, and then it's going to land. And if you don't know where it's at, you're going to have to look for it. So I would always leave it on bypass. Brake just means it's just going to stop where it's at. Disable sideways flight. There is no sideways obstacle avoidance sensors. So be real careful, especially when you're doing the orbit mode, and realize that. So if you want to, you can disable sideways flight. And actually, when you first buy it, if you try to fly sideways, this is actually enabled. Display radar map. I don't know why you'd want to turn that off. Your max altitude legally in the U.S. is 400. Your max distance, you can set it to whatever you want. Return to altitude. This is really important. If you had this set down to, let's say 70 feet, but there's some 80-foot trees around you, and for some reason there's little branches sticking out, it can hit those little tiny branches. The obstacle avoidance works really good, but it doesn't pick up really small things. So you want to set this higher than anything else around you, and even the buildings around you. So I would at least put it up to about 130, 140 feet. The compass calibration, and we'll go over that in a minute, and then the IMU calibration. That's a thing for another day, don't worry about it. It shows you the battery count, how many times you've been charged it, find my drone. If it gets lost, it'll show it on the map. And the control, you have imperial, metric. The gimbal mode is follow me or FPV mode. FPV mode is kind of like this FPV, this camera stationary. And a lot of people like that FPV cinematic movement of when the drone's going like this. So what it does, it locks this gimbal here to where it gives you that cinematic FPV look. But typically you're going to want to leave it on follow me. You have advanced gimbal settings, and it shows you how fast you want the smoothness to go. So do you want the gimbal to move fast or slow? So if you're wanting real cinematic stuff, you want these slowed down. The same thing with the yaw smoothness when it turns. Also the pitch speed. So when you're going forward and backwards, the more you play with this, I know as a beginner, this might seem confusing. If you ever do something and you're not happy with it, you can always hit reset and it'll go back to the original settings. So the original settings are meant for the average person. If you're a professional photographer, you're really going to start changing around with these gimbal settings. On the camera, you can do descend like or normal. As a beginner, you may not know what any of this is, so that's a video for another day. You pretty much want to leave everything on auto. It does a fantastic job on it. I have overexposure warnings set, and what that does, it gives you zebra stripes in the background if it's overexposed. I don't have ND filters for it yet, so it lets me know if I'm pointing at something and it's too bright and it's going to white out on me. You can max video your cache calibrability. I don't know why I had that set to 2. That's why I want to put that to 16 gigs. And transmission, your frequency, leave it on dual band. That's going to find the best band that it's using and it'll stay with that. About tells you about, here you can check for updates. And your FlySafe database, that's where you live, the geofencing, you can check that for updates. Network required. I am not signed into the networks. So how I get to that is I go back to here. I don't know why it's not signed in. I go to Wi-Fi. There we go. Now it's connected to my Wi-Fi. The FB Band 6. My son set that. That was pretty funny. So it says take off with caution, no GPS. Wow, it's got 8 satellites inside. That's amazing. So down here, it shows you your height and your distance. Oops, I'm doing a screen record. So right here, you can hit stop. Screen record's really nice, especially if you're making videos and stuff. So I must have hit, you can also hit a screenshot. Shows you how much storage you have left on your SD card. Right now I'm shooting in 4K 30 and I have everything set to auto. So up here is where you switch from photo to video to master shots. Master shots where it kind of does a combination of different things. Slow motion, normal mode, your quick shots, but you got to be flying to do that. A hyperlapse is really nice and a pano shot. Now, to get the follow me to work is when you're flying, you hit this and you draw a circle around something and it's going to pull down here and you're going to go to focus tracks. I'll show you that when we're flying it.
Guys, there's 2 ways to unlock your drone if you're geo-fenced in and it says it will not fly because you're in a no-fly zone. One I'm going to show you really quick is you go into settings and you go into safety and you scroll down, but you have to be registered with DJI. So it says unlock geo zone. So if you go here, it says no unlocking license. So you have to, right here, if you read, you have to go to the website and to support FlySafe, unlock a zone to submit your unlocking request. So, but you need Wi-Fi to do that. So it's almost easier to do on your phone. But what's even easier is to use the Before You Fly app. So let's go over that.
One thing I see a lot of people asking in the forums and seeing a bunch of videos online is how far will the drone go? Well, guys, legally you can't go beyond visual line of sight. There's a reason for that. So if you've looked, I've never posted a video with the range test on a drone beyond where I can see it. Now, when I was in the mountains of Colorado, I could see my Maverick 3 for a mile and I could see a Mini3 300 for about a mile and a half, or one of these Inspires behind me. But with this mini drone, I can't imagine you're going to be able to see it for more than a mile. So even when you do get comfortable with the drone, don't go beyond visual line of sight. The neat thing about this drone is it comes with 2 different size batteries. Almost all drones have proprietary batteries that do different things, but this one has 2 different weight batteries. So this drone, if you look on it, it says even on the bottom 259 grams if you're flying this. So, but they have another battery that you can buy. It weighs more, so it puts you over the 250 gram limit, but it says 47 minutes of flight time. With that one, I'm really getting about 40 minutes, 42 minutes. All right, guys, well, here's some tips, okay? The first tip is have fun. Don't panic. Guys, this drone flies itself. It's only going to go where you tell it. So don't panic. Start out low and slow. Fly it around. Don't try to go all out the first time you fly it. Just take it out where you're comfortable. Start out low and slow and start doing your maneuvers around you very slowly. Another thing, too, tip number 2 is start with the drone flying away from you. Because guys, then the orientation of the drone is the same as the sticks. When you turn it around and it's coming back at you, everything's backwards. And that leads into tip number 3 is learn the orientation of the drone. And how you do that, and I went over this in the beginning, is to get yourself a little bitty mini drone. It's got these covered props that you're not scared of crashing it. Just like when you fly your car. Just like when you drive your car, now you drive to work, you're subconscious, you just drive there. You're aware of what you're doing, but you're driving subconsciously. You're not thinking about, I got to turn the steering wheel, I got to push on the gas, I need to turn turn signal. You just do it automatically because your subconscious takes over. Well, that's what happens when you're flying a drone. Your subconscious will take over. But you're not going to get that in the beginning unless you fly one of these mini drones and learn the orientation, because both of these sit on 4-axis. So they both pitch forward and back. They roll left and right. They yaw left and right, and they go up and down. So the controls are the same on this one as it is on this one. So the first time you put this in the air and you become comfortable with this one's going to be a lot easier to fly, and it's going to take that stress away. So learn the orientation of a drone with one of these. You can crash this little thing 1,000 times. It's not going to hurt it. But you crash this one once and you're at $1,000, and you're going to think drones aren't for you. And you probably would have missed out on a really good hobby that you could have had a lot of fun with if you would have just learned the orientation first. Is third, don't have any distractions. Man, your friends are going to want to see you fly your brand new drone. They're going to come over to you. They're going to want to be talking to you and everything else out. Guys, I wear a vest when I fly my drones when I'm doing commercial shots. It says, don't even talk to me. Leave me alone, because I want to focus on what I'm doing. And lots of times, if I'm doing something, I'll have a visual observer to keep the eyes on the drone just so I can keep the eyes on the controller. So if you're trying to watch your drone, watch your controller, seeing what's going on, and you got your dog with you, or you're using your phone and your girlfriend's calling you, or people asking you questions, how fast does that thing go? How much does it cost? Can I fly it? Guys, keep distractions away. Not even your first time, but all times you're flying a drone. You need to keep your distractions to a minimum. Third, know your surroundings, where you're at. If you're flying somewhere new and you don't know about buildings and trees and all that kind of stuff, drive around, ride your bicycle around, whatever it does, but don't put this drone where you don't know where it's going. That can be terrifying. If you have it go behind trees and it's going places and you're flying around, it's very dangerous for you and your drone of not knowing what obstacles are there. This camera can see in front of it, but you're trying to look at where it's going through this little screen on this controller. And man, what a great little controller this thing is. That's a review for another day when I'm going to do a review on the drone, but this is a complete beginner's guide of how you feel more comfortable buying what I think is the best beginner drone ever. Not the best first drone, but the first beginner camera drone. But let me tell you real quick, if you're trying to decide between getting the M1 controller and this controller, definitely get this controller. Guys, it is so nice, and if you're going to be flying a lot, not to have to pull your phone out and fumble around putting apps on, hooking up the wires and everything else like that. It's just so much more convenient. This thing is so light, and the screen's so much bigger than on your phone. It just makes the whole experience of flying a drone much more enjoyable when you have this controller. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. I answer 100% of the comments. Also, my email is james@b4ugo.com. That's james@b-4ugo.com. Email me. I'll answer it. If you have any questions, if maybe asking questions about if this drone's good for you, or if you want to do more better photography work and you want the Air 2S or even a different manufacturer, or any other questions. So guys, if you got something out of this, please like and subscribe. Subscribers mean everything to me in this channel. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.